Right, okay, this looks like we're up and running. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Andy Ent. I'm the host tonight of this book launch for a brand new anthology from Printed Words called From the Shadows. Now, we will talk more about this as we go along, but we have tonight 7 readers. Are all featured in the book themselves. So what we're going to do is each of these writers are going to read out either their poem or an extract from their short story. Like I said before, we've got 7 people tonight, so I'm going to introduce each one as we go along, and as we go along later on, Amanda Steele, who was the main force behind Printed Words, will talk more about this collection. But the collection is 31 pieces that are a mixture of crime and horror. Oh no, as I nearly said crime and poetry, which make it completely different. But anyway, it is definitely, okay, now crime and obviously horror. So now, started off us tonight is a wonderful gentleman who I've seen perform numerous occasions, Richard Harries. Now, Richard's bio says, and I'll give him the full pleasure of his full bio here as well. Richard Harries is a 68-year-old Yorkshire poet. He has been writing and performing poetry, stories, and spoken word for about 10 years and performs all over the north of England. He appears at charity events and festivals regularly. Richard's written word is varied and covers many genres. He can be political and angry, children's love poems, children's story poems, comedy, and so much more. His serious work includes poems on male breast cancer, homelessness, depression, and disability discrimination. He is signed to Stairwell Books of York, and his first volume, Awakening, was recently published. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you very much. So I normally go to Halloween events once a year, and I do the same 3 poems. So I thought I would write some new ones in lockdown, so that you're not repeating yourself every time. And it was about the time that Amanda was asking for submissions. So this is the one that she chose, and it's called Halloween Walk. I walk my dogs every night. So why not on Halloween? I mean, it's not real. I walk my dogs through the graveyard. So why not on Halloween? I went through happily as usual. Then the dogs whined and pulled. I hung on to their leads, but they snarled and snapped their leather. Then before my eyes transformed into the hounds of hell, red eyes, dripping jaws, I gasped and turned and ran. I tripped and stumbled with them, snapping at my heels. I prayed. Yes, prayed so hard. Then out of a grave came a bony hand and pulled me to the ground. I closed my eyes and held my breath, waited for death, the tearing of my throat, then woke with a start and vowed never to walk out on Halloween.
Tremendous start. Thanks for that, Richard. Always love hearing your stuff, mate, and it's one of my favourites of yours. I'm delighted you're in the book, and it's a great start. Thank you, mate. Okay, moving right on. Next one is a lady. Now, another lady, a lady I've seen read at Speakeasy before now, and she's a great writer as well. Ros Otley. Ros Otley's bio says, Ros has been writing poetry since she was a child and had written poetry and stories her entire life. She trained in performing arts and worked as a professional clown for 20 years. Then, due to circumstances beyond her control, Ros retrained to be a you might correct me for this, a psychotherapist for the NHS for 15 years. Ros has since retired from the NHS and decided to finally share her poetry. She has been part of 4 women poets, an environmental series of events around Yorkshire. She has won the I've rehearsed this, what makes it worse. The Northern Poetry FB Poetry Competition 3 times, has been published in the Words Poetry Anthology. Over to you, Ros.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I wrote this poem for Halloween last year, and when I saw that this anthology was coming up, I thought it may be a good one for it. It actually has 3 parts. There is the person that's speaking, there is a storyteller, and there is also a sort of verse in between each one, because that's the rhythm it has. So I hope that it doesn't confuse everybody. It's easier when you read it, really. So here goes. It's called The Tale of the Black Cloaked Beast. On a night black blue like a raven's feather, in a raging storm blowing hell for leather, I sheltered in an inn outside of town. And I heard this tale from a sour old blighter. As the liquor flowed and the fire burned brighter, he swore his tale was true as he sat down. He said 'twas All Hallows night, with the thunder clapping. I awoke to the sound of a tree limb snapping, so arose from my bed with a deep chill in the air. I looked through the rattle of my window pane to the curve of the trees out in the lane, and my blood ran cold with that which I saw there. This tale of the black-cloaked beast, each eye a blazing coal, he's doomed to walk these hills and lanes, for the evil drained his soul. Yes, the tale of the black-cloaked beast, his howl a butcher's knife. 'Tis said one sight of this phantom's eyes will haunt you all your life. I tried to move till my breath was rasping, but my thoughts seemed gripped by an unknown gasping. My mind confused, was this a dream or real? What he could be I did not know. I told myself just a moonlit glow, but my skin crawled, locked in a vice of steel. Just then the night was ripped asunder, as pure white lightning split the thunder, and the full force of this fiend the light laid bare. My nerves recoiled and my skin was cold, where an ancient voice, seemed eons old, urged me to let him in upon the stair. This tale of the black-cloaked beast, his mission stalked with glee, his soul long gone means his need to capture mine was plain to see. Yes, my tale of the black-cloaked beast, with a salacious need to feed. He said it's only Halloween, he can sate his wolfish greed. I looked at the aging, sour old bugger. I laughed in my beer as he began to blubber. You live to tell the tale, friend, so all's good. But he howled with a broken, shattered cry, then slowly turned and raised his eyes that were glowing red as freshly spilled lifeblood. It was only then that it dawned I'd seen. To date, the day was Halloween. I could not move as he stretched a blackened hand. My drink crashed to the stone-cold floor. I knew the end, I knew no more. Now I am cursed to wander howling through this land. Yes, my tale of the black-cloaked beast, my mission is to tell. I'm doomed to seek you endlessly until I feed your soul. Yes, a tale of a black-cloaked beast. Don't scoff at the world unseen. Be wary of a stranger's tale if it's told on Halloween.
Oh, excellent. I like the ending there, Ross. That was a really, really good ending, that then. Really, really quite creepy. Definitely. Made me shiver a little bit, that then. Thank you for that. Tremendous. Okay, my next one up is me. Right, okay, my bio, I'm not gonna hold the line out with this. I'm not into that game. Everyone knows I'm Andy, and I've done numerous poetry collections, the most recent being Haiku of Life. I also do ambient music under the name of Ocean in the Bottle. I'm Amanda's right-hand man on the Printed Words project, and I co-run a night called Speakeasy, among other things. Now, the piece I'm going to do today is from the collection. It's a true story, this one as well. That came up when I was doing some research fairly recently. There's a big myth going around about Macbeth, the play, and with the play itself is if you actually start maintaining the name Macbeth during rehearsals, awful accidents have happened to people over the years, and this is a true story. Actually, one of these cases actually happened, and it's called The Scottish Curse of the Oldham Coliseum Theatre. Some say it was an accident. One of the two actors slipped, resulting in them moving slightly more forward than they should have done. Macbeth, the reports claimed, he called out 4 times just before the show, even after being warned at Scottish curse by the others in the dressing room. Some say he looked terrified throughout the full of the play, almost like he knew what was going to happen next, pausing just before the finale, crawling into the wings instead, dying on stage afterwards, calling out once to the stage director, "I've been stabbed." Some say he's there still now, looking over his shoulder over 70 years later, looking up to the deserted balcony, appearing every Thursday night, tangled into a garbled loop, holding his chest, closing his eyes just before the blade entered him, fighting with the shadows even now. That's me done. Okay, I'm moving right on. Okay, we're over to Wigan next now. Next then is a lady. It's proved very valuable to me in the man. Been a massive help with this printed words anthology, Maria Byrne. Now Maria's from the Wigan area, and Maria was part of the submissions team for this anthology and for the printed words quarterly e-zine magazines in the past as well. She has performed her poetry in person and on Zoom at several spoken word nights, including Speakeasy in Stretford, A Lovely Word in Liverpool, and Write Out Loud in Wigan. Maria has also appeared in BBC Lancashire and has had her poetry shortlisted by Radio Warrington. Maria Byrne.
Thank you, Andy. When I look at horror, there's quite like a lot of fantastic things, but this one's a bit more about the horror of reality. And this is called Street Zombie, and this is a little extract from that. I turned the corner. There's someone sleeping on the ground next to the bench with armrests in the middle. That, you know, the bridge has now got spikes. The city put there to eradicate this terrible problem, and yet the street zombies are still there. Stupid people sometimes give money and encourage their worthlessness. The street in the city isn't much different to anyone's street now. It's all full of antisocial behaviour. It's a nightmare. It's a horror story. I did my day's work, and in the evening, past 10, the night has fallen and the zombies have come out, and they fight each other, and they do what they can. Money from stupid people wasted. The city should do more to crack down on the problem, but it never happens. "Hey," said a whispery, ghostly voice. I looked around. A coarse man huddled into a sleeping bag, a mere prop, to extort money for drugs and whatever else people do. "Hey," said a ghostly voice again. I tried to walk past. This stained zombie. His skin was coarse pink, and the wind had been quite harsh that day. Serves him right for being idle. If he moved around all day like me at lifting heavy pallets, he won't be cold. I have to work in a chilled environment day after day. "Who are you?" I asked. "What do you want?" "I'm a man," said the zombie. I waited for him to say something else. His sinewy body was like a corpse. He wore 2 jumpers, a hoodie, and in his head, a hat on his head. His sleeping bag looked expensive, the winter version. He looked well. He didn't look cold, and he probably wasn't really homeless. "What do you want?" I said. The man's face was overgrown. He looked like he hadn't had a haircut for quite a while, and his skin was sodden like thin paper. "Anything you can give me?" "Money, food?" I asked, prompting him to be more specific. In my mind, I reeled off the things he really wanted: drugs, a free ride, turned to walk away. I wasn't going to waste any of my hard-earned cash. Time, said the zombie. His voice was guttural, and the wind had blown strongly before, so weak and voice than he had before. Time, I said. What do you mean, time? You sit here all day, you don't work. You're all the time in the world, I said. All my anxieties came flooded out. Time again, said the zombie. In my disbelief, I prepared to walk away. Time was run down the sand timer. The grains of sand quickly fall to the bottom of the glass. The glass is empty of achievement. The digital zeros in our banks are cold. The numbers aren't even a measure of success. Numbers of homelessness are meaningless statistics. Why am I happy and you are angry? Thank you.
Fantastic, Maria. The first time I've actually heard you read a bit of non-poetry out, so it was great to hear that tonight. I've not heard you do that before. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, as always. Okay. Okay. Moving on now to a lady I've not heard read before, and this is the first time I read. I could have been on the selection panel with Maria, helping Amanda out this collection. It's been nice sometimes to get to read pieces by other people I don't know, and this is a pleasure tonight because this was a tremendous short story this lady sent in to us. So I'm looking forward to this. Lady's name is Christy Vincent, and Christy's work has been published in Dark Gothic Resurrected magazine, which is a great name for a magazine, Christy. I've got to say that straight away. Utopia Science Fiction, Horse Academy, among others. Her eccentric life led her to be awake most of the time when the world sleeps, which is when most of her horror stories ideas hatch. This self-cycled freelance weirdo enjoys life with her wife, 2 dogs and cat. She's currently working on a non-fiction book along with growing her web development business. She enjoys mountain biking, kayaking, snowboarding, and taking selfies of inanimate objects. Over to you, Christy.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to read an excerpt from Taxi. I recognized his cab before his face. Would I have even looked at the cab, though, if I hadn't sensed someone glaring at me? I don't have an answer to that. All I know for sure is that I was walking back to my car and I felt the need to look to my right. As soon as my head turned, his went down, so I only caught the tail end of his glare. If I hadn't seen him last night, I would have chalked my feeling up to paranoia from being out and about in the middle of the night. Delivering newspapers was not exactly a safe job, especially as a woman. I mean, sure, all I did was drive around to quick trips and hotels, mostly all well-lit, well-populated locations, but still. Cops hung out at the quick trips because they got free fountain drinks, which I think Quick Trip does intentionally. Free drinks attract lots of cops. Lots of cops deter robbers. Free drinks are cheaper than full-time security. Problem solved. So yeah, I don't normally feel paranoid, but I had been on edge all day. After what happened last night, I just felt a little off, you know? I had already been walking fast, but once I saw the guy in the cab, I picked up the pace. Slamming my door and locking it in one swift motion, I grabbed my paperwork, pretending to focus my attention on it. However, I was using my peripheral vision hardcore to see what the guy was doing. I do have freakishly fine-tuned peripheral vision, but it was dark and late, so I couldn't get a good view of a man 3 spaces over in a cab. I reached over my shoulder to grab my seatbelt and used that motion to get a good look. He was staring straight at me. Not one to be intimidated, I paused mid-belting and stared right back. His gaze immediately fell to his lap. I kept my eyes fixed on him as I fastened my seatbelt. He didn't look up until I was all the way out of the parking lot and had shifted into first gear. Once my car started moving forward, his head came up. I could see his eyes watching me. I managed to convince myself that the glow of his eyes in my rearview mirror was my imagination. Needless to say, I booked it out of there. Our encounter the previous night had been quick, and not so much with the cabbie as with his passenger. Girlfriend, hooker, I don't know who she was. I had pulled into my usual parking spot on the side, but instead of grabbing the convenience store's 12 nightly papers and going in, I sat there for a minute to finish up my McDonald's. I try not to indulge in fast food often, but I hadn't eaten all day and my energy was lagging. As I sat there, I saw a woman pacing in front of the store, talking on a cell phone and waving her arms. I wondered what she was on. The two cops leaning on their car were keeping an eye on her, so I went back to minding my own business. I began counting out the next few stops' papers to make good use of my time while I wolfed down my rapidly cooling fries. A blue 1010 taxi pulled up beside me. Even though my route run is between 11:30 and 2 a.m., quick trips are always busy, so I didn't look twice, just sat there counting papers and stuffing my face. The frantically pacing woman did catch my attention again when she headed in my direction, but I thought she was going to the cab beside me, so I looked back down at my run sheet. It made sense now, I thought idly. The woman must have called the cab. Maybe he had been late and that's why she was upset. Not my business. I was glad she wasn't stuck at the gas station and that she wouldn't be out driving on the road. She was acting erratically, probably high on something, so I was glad that she had called the cab. This little drama solved, I went back to my food. My fright-eating bliss was short-lived, however. Through my closed windows, I heard a man yelling. I didn't look up because I could tell it was nearby and I didn't want to get involved. And there were cops there. They could take care of whatever needed taking care of. Shut the blank door now! Shut the blank door right now! I couldn't help it. I was too close, too loud, too angry to ignore. I looked up. The woman had gotten out of the front passenger seat and was now standing outside the cab with one hand on the open door. As I watched, she calmly closed the door, then strolled casually over to the trash can. I stood there looking down. She stood there looking down, shaking. The cabbie sat in his cab, shooting her a look of death that chilled my spine. Well, because she had been in the cab's front seat, I now assumed that she and the cabbie knew each other and that he had come to pick her up, that she wasn't just a fare. That assumption was validated by his screaming at her. Now what was she going to do? She was frail, he was huge and furious. Quickly making up my mind, I grabbed the newspapers and my McDonald's bag. I wasn't quite finished with my fries, but hey, I shouldn't eat them all anyway, and I needed the trash for an excuse to get near her. Are you okay? I asked in a low voice as I threw my bag in the trash can she was huddled over. I saw that she had a handful of lottery tickets. Another mystery solved. So that was why she was hunched over and shaking. Not shaking, scratching. Got it. She looked at me blankly, then a hint of a smile snuck into one corner of one eye, the eye that wasn't blackened. She nodded. I nodded back and glanced over the cab. The guy was staring straight at me. I glared back until his eyes dropped. I make it sound like it was a standoff or something. It wasn't. I glared. He immediately looked down. That was it. When I came out of the store clutching yesterday's unsold papers, the cab and the woman were gone. I hoped she was okay. I had asked. She had nodded. I did what I could, right? I hadn't known what else to do. Driving off, I turned up my audiobook, trying to put the incident out of my mind. I'm going to stop there. If that's okay.
Excellent, Christy. Thank you for that. Yeah, like I think it's one of those ones where I think if you'd carried reading the full thing, it'd probably took you 15-20 minutes. And yeah. I know, I would have wanted it. I know. As Amanda, I know what Amanda's going to do. Amanda's on next. Her piece is a short story like yours, and you just do a little tease of it. And I think that's all you need sometimes. That was fantastic. Thank you for that. Okay, moving right on now. As I just hinted at, Amanda's on next. Amanda Steele. Now, Amanda Steele is the editor of this anthology, so she tells me. She is the author of several novels, including Ghost to Me, which was a finalist in the thriller category of the Author Elite Awards 2020. Amanda has had her work published, broadcast. Oh, I'm terrible tonight. She had her work broadcast on BBC Radio Manchester and the No Sleep podcast. She also co-hosts a book review podcast and works as a copywriter. Over to you, Amanda.
Okay. Right, this is an extract from Bury Your Past. Present day. I shuffle the last piles of dirt over the makeshift grave. I never thought I would have to bury a body, but there's no time to dwell on my actions. Now is the time to run. 7 years earlier. I looked at the electronic invitation. The only David I knew was on my chemistry course at college. We had never spoken. I didn't even know his second name before getting the invite, but maybe this invitation had been sent to everyone on the same courses he was studying. It made sense, however desperate it might be. He started a few months after everyone else, making it difficult to fit into the already formed friendship groups. Why not, I thought, as I decided to go to his party. Chris broke up with me the previous week, taking most of our friends with him, even those who had been my friends before we got together. Considering he was the one who cheated on me, I was annoyed, but kept quiet, trying to be the bigger person. As I arrived at the party, I looked around for David, but couldn't see him anywhere. In fact, I didn't recognise anyone at all from college. A guy close to my age approached me, smiled warmly, almost as if he knew me. He was tall, probably 6'5" or more. At 5'10", most guys hated it if I was taller than them. His dark hair, dimpled face and sexy smile made it all too easy to say hi, as if we hadn't just met. I never got to introduce myself because someone yelled that the party was over, while several more yelled a warning to run before scrambling for the nearest exit. The hot guy in front of me took my hand and pulled me towards the back door, which was less congested than the front door. We ran through the back garden where he helped me clamber over the wooden fence, and we ran through the woods together hand in hand. It was almost romantic, and I wished Chris could see me at that moment. "Are you okay, Erica?" he said as we slowed. I wasn't used to running, so I nodded rather than spoke, to give my lungs time to recover some oxygen. I definitely would have struggled to tell him my name wasn't Erica. He walked me home, only it wasn't home. The building he walked me to was a small cottage painted white. It clearly belonged to someone who had money. We stopped, he leaned in, wished me good night and kissed me. I got the sense he seemed familiar with me, not at all like someone kissing another person for the first time. So I wrapped my arms around him and got caught up in the moment, matching his lip movements with my own. Again, I wished Chris could see me at that moment. I watched him leave, realising I didn't even know his name, and I was miles from home. You'll have to buy the book if you want to read the rest.
Dun, dun, dun. Tremendous, Amanda. Big tease there, definitely. So, right, Amanda, do you want to show everybody at the front what the book actually looks like?
Yeah, the book arrived like 2 hours ago.
It's quite funny that, because the book itself, we ordered Amanda about 3 weeks ago, didn't we? And we didn't think it was going to turn up for tonight, and it turned up right out of the blue. So, but anyway, okay. Last writer to the reader, the next writer of the night is a lovely lady, and me and Amanda know this lady from going to write out loud Stockport. Dorinda MacDowell. Dorinda is a mother, grandmother, lover of words, and a lover of life. She has been published in Worktown anthologies, had poems published at the King Lear webpage, won a poetry competition and local publication, and been included in a list of finalists in a national poetry competition. Two of Dorinda's greatest pleasures are reading and playing with words. Over to you, Dorinda.
Thank you. Okay, we're going back about 80 years now, and this is called Shadow. Deserted Parisian Avenue, curfew. Noiselessly, she moves in the shadows, herself a shadow. She pauses only when she sees her contact at the bench. He sees her, a password whispered. She passes him the paper, hands trembling. He retreats. She retraces her steps. Freezing momentarily, a muffled cry, a scuffle. She glances back, her contact on the ground, not moving. She dare not return. Reaching home, she shakily pours wine. Did they see her, those men? Heavy footsteps on the stairs, menacing, hammering on the door. She jumps, the wine spills, an ugly stain creeping across the floor.
Oh, that's creepy, Dorinda, that piece. That's really creepy. No, it's tremendous. Thank you. It's a great way of finishing off the reading side of it tonight. So thank you for that, Dorinda. Right, I've got nothing else to say here, so I'm going to go straight over to Amanda to let her wrap up for tonight. But from my side, it's been a tremendous pleasure, everybody. Thank you. Over to Amanda to conclude tonight.
Okay, I just want to say thanks to Andy and Maria for helping with the anthology and to sort through the submissions. And thanks to everybody for sending in the work, or there won't be an anthology. And anyone who's watching this, either on the live stream or the recording, if you've like what you've heard, then buy the book.
Where can they get the book from, Amanda? Just so people know.
It's on Amazon as a paperback. It's on various other places if you search, and it's also as Kindle, Kobo, Apple, lots of big name platforms, and a lot that I'd never heard of as well.
Well, everybody, that's it for tonight. Thank you again, everybody, for reading, and everybody who's been watching. It's been a pleasure. This is Andy N signing out. Take care. See you all soon.
Thank you. Thank you.